On today's episode of Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast, we're going to be talking about the 6 keys of empowerment with Soni Graves.
Hi, I'm Karen Cooper, a wife, mom of 3, real estate broker, team owner, and founder of Empowering Women in Real Estate. As a realtor, I've personally helped well over 700 families in my career, and now I help thousands of women from all across the country balance real life and real estate through daily inspiration, motivation, and actionable plans to increase their success. Listen in as I share stories and tips from my life and business and interview some of my favorite people.
Hi there. I'm so glad you're here for today's episode. So this is a special episode. We actually have 2 guests on today's episode. So we have my friend Soni Graves, who you're going to get to hear from, of course, today, but you're also going to get to hear from her on the stage at our Empowering Women in Real Estate conference coming up at the end of September. And Soni has been in sales for more than 3 decades, and she had very high-level sales positions. She worked for both Lennar, and then she spent a very large portion of her career with D.R. Horton, one of the largest home builders in the U.S. And she has so much knowledge and is going to be sharing with you all about the 6 keys of empowerment and how that helps you with your life and with your business. And I'm excited for you to hear that. And also on today's episode, we have our mutual friend, Soni and I, Steve Rigby. Steve Rigby wrote the book Smile, which Soni is a part of, and recently Managing to Smile, which my business partner Vicki and I are a part of. And he and Soni work together through New Wings Consulting. They do sales, training, and consulting for a lot of new home builders, most specifically all across the country, do a lot of really amazing things. And so we're happy to have Steve on the episode today as well, talking a little bit about his book. But really, this conversation that you're going to hear today, there's a lot of like, kind of philosophies that you're going to hear and, talking about how we're really in the people business. And I think that that's something that gets forgotten, especially in, today's like tech world, AI world. That's all everybody wants to hear about. But really, if you don't know how to talk to people, you can have the best AI tools in the world and it's not going to help you. You're not going to get where you want to go. We also talk about choices. You're going to hear that today in this episode. So I love that we have a lot to share in today's episode. I love that you're going to get to hear more from Soni on stage. We've talked for a couple of years about having her come and speak. And so I'm so thrilled that we were finally able to make this happen this year. And yeah, I'm really excited for it. So take a listen. Let me know what you think. Come message me on Instagram. I'm at karen.w.cooper. And until next time, stay well.
Well, hi, friends. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello there. Great to be here. Thank you.
Hi.
Oh my gosh. So we have a twofer on today's episode. So we're very excited. I'm in the middle of this. We're doing very special interviews, a series of all of our keynote speakers for the conference, which Soni is going to be one, Soni Graves. And so we're excited about that. And Soni is actually business partners with our friend Steve Rigby, who has just written a new book that just came out called Managing to Smile. And so we thought, Steve, it would be really fun to have you on today as well. It's kind of like our little special guest, right? So, Soni, why don't we start with you? Would you give us just a little bit of, because I love your history, is so fascinating too. Would you give us just a little bit, tell us a little bit about you, your history, what you do now, all that kind of good stuff.
Okay. Mom of 2, husband that owns his own business, but I've been in sales for over 35 years, started in selling cell phones and then pharmaceuticals and then sold new homes and then went from selling in the garage, like I call it, where the rubber meets the road, going into director of sales, VP of ops, and then city manager for D.R. Horton, which is the largest builder in America. So I did that. But before I was with D.R. Horton, I was actually with Lennar for 6 years. So I did that for over 35 years of just combined sales experience, and then decided to step back a little bit. God was telling me I needed to do something different. And I say step back, but God told me he expects more from me. So what does that look like? the next thing I know, Steve and Susan Rigby called me and said, when you have time, we'd love for you to come visit us. And I went up and visited them at their beautiful home on Lake Travis in Austin. I live in Houston and went to Austin, and they asked me to join as a partner in their New Wings Consulting. So I did that about it. I just had my year anniversary. So I've been here about a year and just having the best time with Steve. And then now we have our other partner, David Vigil, in with us as well. So we're just rocking it out there.
I love that. You know what I love? I love that when, God gives us a mission, right? And you really kind of felt that need to step back, but it really wasn't stepping back. It was stepping into something else, and it was stepping into a higher purpose.
Absolutely. And that's where I think it was really different is I was having my career was great. If anybody looked at it, I was on the right trajectory. And God actually spoke to me for a year, and I did ignore God for a year. I was like, there's no way he's telling me it's time to leave. That's not even an option.
Don't we do that? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then one day he said, "Are you listening to me yet?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And I said, "Absolutely." And I went in and retired the next day. So was Horton was they were fantastic to me, great company. And yes, so
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Steve,
yes.
I want to hear, what I love about what you do, Steve. Stephen, you're going to tell us about who you are and what you've done and all those amazing things. But you especially, there's two books that you've written. And what I love is that you have real people that are a part of the book.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And so,
Yes, ma'am.
in your book, Smile, which that's how
Mhm.
you and I first connected.
Yes.
And we did a book, like a book club with our team.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
gave everybody the book and we read it. And Soni, you're in that book, right? You're like prominently featured in that book. And then in Managing to Smile, my partner Vicky and I are prominently in that book. So it's so cool how that works. So Steve, tell us about you, who you are, what you do, all the things.
I am the founder of New Wings Consulting. I'm a father of six, grandfather, I think, of six, and great grandfather of three.
Wow.
So I'm a very blessed person. But where I count my biggest blessings are the women who have been so influential in my life. My mother first, and then my bride Susan, and then Sonny came into my life, and then you and Vicky came into it. And y'all have taught me so much and inspired me in so many ways, and have helped me become the man I am today. And when I go back to Sonny talking about, God, Sonny was a godsend to me because I'm, as my father would say, getting a little old in the tooth. And I was in need of somebody to be able to turn this over to that would keep the spirit of it alive. And so when she came in, and it was a blessing. And at the time, I had already started the last book, which Sonny is in. So it was a supposed to happen thing. And I count you and Vicky as two of my dearest friends. And what an inspiration y'all
You're so
were
kind.
in this book. I'm
Thank
forever
you.
indebted to you.
You're so kind. You're so kind. And you have such a long history and knowledge. Sani talked about, the sales skills, and really that's what you have done throughout your career and with New Wings Consulting and going in and teaching those skills.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically, really a lot of your history has been with new construction
Yes, ma'am.
and new home sales. And so can you guys, since our audience here is really women in real estate, and some are certainly work for builders, but a lot are like the residential sales. Can you guys kind of talk about that? One of the things that I love about you guys is you talk about doing business by relationship, and that's something that really means a lot to us. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Go ahead, Sonny.
Yeah, I'd like to start with kind of going back where I met Steve over 25 years ago. It's kind of crazy. Actually, I was in sales training with him when 9/11 happened.
Oh, wow.
It was right. We were only a few days into the sales training. So that alone changed our life, right? And so I was in training with Steve, and what I learned from him 25 years ago as a sales counselor, I actually took that into my management career this entire time. And it was about relationships. It's about trusting people, also taking care of it could be your team. It could be your real estate, community. It could be a homeowner, home buyer. your vendors. I mean, you just made sure you took care of everybody. There was a relationship that was formed and a trust that you all had to have. And, I have to be honest that when I was managing this way for the last 20 plus years, I didn't realize that I was doing it based on what he taught me until I reconnected with Steve about 5 years ago and realized that everything he taught me that I had continued to implement all of that until, it was just such how he teaches is such the natural way of how we should handle relationships and
Yeah.
life, personally and professionally. Everything I did, it's personally and professionally that way. That's where I feel like it started. And so I pride myself in that people would say, I've never used the word, oh, she's fair, but everybody would say, yes, if I went to Soni, she might hand me my booty, but I will say, thank you, ma'am. Can I have another? Because they knew I did it like caring. I don't mean that because I cared so much about them.
Yes.
I didn't do it out of malice. Like you're really wanting them to do better by them, themselves. I mean, you want and it didn't matter if you worked for me, you worked outside. There was the real estate community that felt the same way. They knew they could call Soni and I was going to make sure they were taken care of and their clients were taken care of. And we would talk through everything. You just have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's a trust, right? That's
Mhm.
required in what we do. And
Yes.
the way to build that trust, I think a lot of times, and I'm sure you can relate to this when, you talked about where the rubber met the road, right? You're working in the
Mhm.
garage, when that prospective client would walk in and maybe considering building a home in the neighborhood or just wanting to learn something, and we deal with it all the time. There's a wall that's kind of up immediately because
Yes.
they're afraid that, oh, this person's just going to try to sell me. And so there's a wall. And so it takes effort and it takes nuance to kind of build that trust and to kind of break down that wall so that you can understand, hey, this is how I can help you, or hey, maybe you don't even need to be here.
Right.
Kind
Right.
of
Well,
thing.
Karen, if I might add, when
Yeah.
I started my career in sales, was actually in sawmill equipment, and then transitioned over eventually into the automobile industry for a brief time. And from there, moved into general real estate, both in Arkansas and Texas. And then I got into home building. But everything that worked uh, was always about relationships. And so it was just an easy thing to bring into it. And when you have success, but more importantly, when you learn from others that have had great success, realizing we're in the people business and it's all about relationships. And so it makes it easy to do. And in the world today of technology and all the stuff that's going on, there really is nothing that's changed.
Yep.
It's always been about people. It will always be about people. It's always relationships. It will always be relationships for most people.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And what you said there is just so succinct and so perfect. And that is we're in the people business. And I think that a lot of times we forget that. And especially in today's like AI world
Yes, ma'am.
where people want to talk more about AI and how
Mhm.
to like use AI versus how to talk to people, which is our job. And I think that's why we all click and connect so well because we
Yes,
all
ma'am.
kind of come right from that same philosophy.
Right.
Before we, and we're so lucky, Sonny, that you're going to be on the stage at the conference. But Steve, you're going to be there with us too because you
Yes, ma'am.
have, you're bringing your books, and so we're really excited about that. Would you talk about your new book, Managing to Smile, and tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'll make it brief because I really want this to be more about Soni, but thank you for the opportunity. When I went through my training in new homes, and Raleigh, the gentleman who trained me, who was the star in both of the books along with Soni, I noticed something interesting. There were about 35 people in that class. It took place over 6 weeks in it. But only a handful of us, maybe three or four, really took what was taught and applied it, held ourselves accountable, and did something with it. And it was disappointing that the others didn't because it was great material, great content. Their careers would have skyrocketed like mine did and others that took to it. So as I moved up the ladder and got into in a leadership role, and then eventually moved into national training for three of the nation's builders, which is where I met Soni. I experienced the same thing. There were a handful of folks that would just do what needed to be done. And you didn't have to oversee them, you didn't have to manage them, but for the rest of them, there was something missing. And I had that idea of there has to be a story that can be told about how to help the rest of the folks that aren't accountable, that aren't self-managed, to get there. And it was a conversation that I had with the young lady that we're speaking with there, Miss Soni, that told me she was frustrated because she experienced the same thing with her team. And then I simply asked if it was okay if I wrote a book about it, starring her, and the rest happened.
Amazing. Amazing. I love that. It is that self-management piece, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that is the part I think that is missing for so many because you can go to any real estate training, you can hop on YouTube right now and find these incredible videos and lessons that have, thousands of views, but the number of people that are actually applying
Yes,
that
ma'am.
information
Mhm.
is so small, and yet
Yeah.
they wonder why they're struggling. And they wonder why. Vicki and I talk about it with our real estate team. Teams can be like there's high school and there's college. And, when you're in high school, somebody is watching to make sure that you show up to class and they're
Yeah.
calling home if you don't, and they're making sure that you do your work. And I think that's how a lot of teams try to operate. But
Yeah.
when you're in college, if you don't show up, nobody's going to call you.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing your work, nobody's going to necessarily call you out on it. And it requires a certain amount of that self-management in order to do that. And so tell me, what is it that you guys think, like, what is it that has some people not able to lean fully into that self-management? And, for some it's innate and it just happens, and other people struggle. Why do you think that is?
I'll answer that briefly, and then I want Sonny's input. I want to go back to I wrote about the tricycle in this book, and I was fascinated the conversation you and I and Vicki had with Susan over lunch one day, where I took the pepper shaker and a couple different things, and I created it on the desk there. But the tricycle is a metaphor for what can help us all become very successful. The front wheel of attitude is critical, and we all recognize that. Who is on the seat is probably more important, the person, but the back wheel serve a very important role, and that is of knowledge and skills. And so the knowledge of how to become self-managed and the skills of how to put it in place. And if you don't have those two, you can have a great attitude and you be a great person, but you're just not going to do what needs to be done. And so when I began putting the idea together, one of the things that hit me was fitness. Because when you look at a gym and all the people that pay good money to join a gym, if you look at the statistics, this is no different than what you find in real estate. Everybody joins a gym, everybody gets into real estate, but within months, nobody's showing up or nobody's doing anything.
That's it.
And so it was that tapping into that idea of what is it about a person that joins a gym that is also in common with people that are self-managed. And it was just a way to put the storyline together, and somehow it seemed to work.
If you know me at all, you know I do not love doing any kind of high pressure sales pitches, especially not on my own podcast. It's just not my style. But I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to be in the room with us at our 6th annual Empowering Women in Real Estate Conference. Seats are almost gone. We are just about to institute the wait list. And if you have been thinking about attending, truly now is the time to get your ticket. The event is on September 29th and 30th at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Dulles, Virginia. This is going to be a room full of serious female professionals in the real estate industry, and our content is really designed to take the whole you seriously, not just the one-dimensional real estate agent. That is what we have built. It's what we have always done. And we're going to do it even better this year than we ever have before. You can learn more and get your ticket at empoweringwomeninrealestate.com and click on the conference. I hope to see you there.
Yeah, I love
Soni?
Yes, I do think that, going back to being self-managed or trying to help your team become self-managed, sometimes it goes back to you don't know what you don't know. I think I know that that's kind of a saying right now, but it really is true. The book came about, I joke that, and it's not really a joke, but that, I was Steve has been a sounding board for me for many years. And then one day, and I was like asking him questions and having a little bit of frustration of what to do with. I had a lot of new management and they're great people and I wanted to see them succeed and their team succeed and all that. And that's where then he asked me one day, are you okay if I write, a book about this? And I said, hey, if it will help other people, I would love that. But I think it comes down to, what does accountability look like? And that's where I love that in the book, Steve was able to, it's about mirrors. It kind of comes from the story Snow White, which a lot of us girls are a lot more, women are a lot more, we remember that story back when we were younger. But it's that you've got these mirrors, and who is in that mirror for you and with you, not forcing you to do anything, but truly being your support system, and you being okay with having somebody in that mirror. And that's one of the things I will be talking about at the conference, because I think us as women, especially if we feel like we want to be these strong women and be successful, or we already are, is, oh, we don't need any help. Like, we can do this all on our own. And that's not the case. We actually need other women and men to help us where we feel needed. And Steve has put it so eloquently in the book that it's okay to need people in our mirror to hold us accountable, to help us become self-managed.
That's right.
I've done some growing ever since just reading the book. And, there is a portion in there about, addiction, and I have people in my life that have addiction issues through work that I've had to help through things. And it just, you realize that so many people, there's some people that may need your assistance in one way, and then others don't. And that's where I feel like a lot of management or a lot of people decide to just umbrella manage, and all of that, versus, like Karen, you may need different people in your mirror than I need in my mirror. Steve would need different people or different things in his mirror than we do. And we have to be okay with that. And when we identify it, it just makes us become self-managed, and the accountability side. And I mean, because everybody can say self-managed, accountability, empowerment, but what does that really look like, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yes. How do you get there?
That's right.
And we're like, how do you get there? And these are the steps in order to get there. And it's okay to need help getting there. And that's what I love about it. It just shows that we're all in this together, and we all need to help each other. Just because you're self-managed doesn't mean you don't need support. So,
well, I think accountability is such like a hot button word, and the thing that I've learned is that a lot of people say they want accountability until you try to hold them accountable.
It's very true. Yes.
And I think that the perception of what accountability is and then what it actually is often two very different things. And right. And so there's a lot of tension, I think, that happens there. And I think too, I love that you guys use the word self-managed, which in a way is kind of similar to discipline in a way, right? But I feel like self-management is discipline. I think kind of gets like it's a hard thing. Whereas self-management, I feel like you have more like personal control over that, right?
Yes,
right.
If I may touch on something, because you just used the word control, and the thing that kind of hit me as the book was kind of coming together. And I swear, Karen, you've authored a book. You know how this stuff works. Sometimes it just kind of writes itself.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the idea of control, I think the thing that scares a lot of people when they're working maybe for corporations, they don't feel like they're in control. So they end up getting in maybe real estate, because it's you're pretty much your own boss.
That's right.
But then they never got the skills and the knowledge, the back wheels of the tricycle, to really understand how to be in control. And so when you go to the mirrors that Soni was talking about, the key thing I think the readers are appreciating about the book is that you don't give up control when you invite people into those mirrors to either help you or hold you accountable. You recruit the people or give them permission to be there, with the understanding that the long-term goal is that the only person in the mirror, once you become self-managed, is yourself.
Yes.
But you're not giving up control. You're still in control of who is there, but you're asking for people to help you. So we go back to the gym. If you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to do cardiovascular, you're trying to put on weight, you're trying to build muscle, you may need people that have the expertise to help you get there. But long term, the goal is for you to be able to do it yourself. But then, more importantly than that, then you can begin mentoring others that are in that same position that want to get there, and that's how you give back. And it was just a fun thing to put together. But I want to add one very quick thing that to me is perhaps the most important thing in the book. And I'm staring at the lady right now that's nodding her head and grinning because I can see you on our cast that we're doing. What you and Vicki helped me understand, it was so darn critical, is that when you looked at empowerment, and you talked about it on your website when I first got it, when I got on it, and I met you too, it's success in life and quality of life. And to me, that's one of the biggest things that's missed, because it's easy to focus on success. But if you have success without quality of life, you really don't have anything.
That's it.
You got a bunch of trophies or a bunch of trips and acknowledgments that you got, but you're probably stressed. You're just not living life to its fullest. And so when I met y'all through Smile, and that idea of empowering women in real estate, success and quality of life, it's like that's got to be a key message in this. And I am forever indebted to you two for helping to make that happen.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we do. We obviously believe very strongly. Soni, we were talking as your son just graduated from high school, and what good is it if we're making a lot of money and we got all these awards on the wall if we don't have a relationship with our children, or if we don't have relationships with the other people in our lives, our partners or whomever. And so, what I never wanted to do was look back, you were joking, Steve, being like long in the tooth or whatever. Like, I don't want to get to that point and look back and go, gosh, like I'm never going to wish that I sold another house, but I'm probably going to wish that I had, maybe one more trip with my kids, or one more, whatever with my husband or whatever. And I think that true fulfillment really does come when we're able to, and we don't do it perfectly, and it's a hard balance, but when we're able to do those. So, Soni, touch on, as we start to kind of move this around to wrap up today, at the conference, you are going to be talking about, your keynote is called The 6 Keys of Empowerment. And you've kind of touched on this a little bit already. And I'm so excited about this because your approach is almost like a workshop kind of approach. Like it's just not, you're just not standing there talking. So will you talk a little bit about what you're going to be sharing and what our audience can expect to take away from it?
Okay. So when we talk about the 6 keys, it's the what, where, why, when, how, and who. Okay. So we're going to go through each of those during the conference. And it's, what is my situation now? Where do I want to be? Why do I want to be there? When do I want to be there? How will I be there? And who will help and hold me accountable? So within those keys, we will discuss it and kind of they will come up with their game plan of what that looks like in their life. And what I love about now with the self-managing book, there's now a 7th key that I will bring up at that time at the very end. And the 7th key of self-management is, which choice will I make?
Oh, yes.
Right. So we don't talk about it till the very end, because a lot of times we can say all this, we can do all this, but it is really, what is the final 7th? Like, it is my choice. You have choices in life, right? And we decide, I've always said life is not peaches and cream all the time. And we have 2 choices. We can be a victim or we can be a victor. And you decide which path you want to go. So I love that portion of it. And we'll have a really good discussion, I hope, with all the wonderful women that'll be attending. I'm excited about that.
I'm so happy. And, you and I went back and forth on this a couple of times, because you are speaking right before I'm doing a clarity workshop to kind of wrap up day 2. And your presentation is right before. And so it like moves perfectly right into kind of how we're going to be wrapping things up. So I'm really excited for how this is all going to come together. And I just can't wait to have you there.
I feel so fortunate to be part of this with all these dynamic women. I was reading on them. I'm like, whoa, okay. I need to step up my game.
We're going to have a good time. Steve, do you have any parting thoughts for us today?
I do. Thank you for asking, Karen. Sonny was just talking about a choice, because which choice will you make? Will you become self-managed, or will you just stay as you are?
Mm-hmm.
And a key part that we brought into the book, and I think it's something that resonates with people that are self-managed, is the idea of excellence.
Yes.
And it's interesting that the six serving men that hold the keys that Sonny just referenced comes from a poem that's 124 years old. But we can go all the way back to Aristotle, who I quote in the book, because he talked about excellence. And what he said at the end of it was that excellence is really just a choice. It's what you decide of what you want your life to be about. Do you want it to be ordinary? Do you want it to be mediocre? Or is excellence the standard that you're going to hold to yourself? And if it is excellence, then the self-management model can help you get there. And then the people that will help you become self-managed, their goal is to help you achieve that excellence. So it's not something that just kind of accidentally happens. It's a choice that somebody's going to make.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I can get a very good feel for who is really wanting to get to that excellence are the number of folks that come up during our time together or after and look at getting a copy of Managing to Smile to invest in their future.
Yes.
If they don't leave there with a copy,
Yeah.
know where they're coming from. They're not thinking about excellence.
Mm-hmm.
But if they are,
Yeah.
if they want success in life and quality of life, they will leave there with an autographed copy from Soni and myself. And so we're honored to be there. What a cool thing for us to be just a part of.
Thank you. You know what that reminds me of? And it's getting the book from you guys that day, but then it's reading it and applying it. I remember I heard Brian Buffini, who has really been a mentor to me in my career. And he would talk about how, you know, sometimes he would meet somebody who was kind of up and coming in their business, and they would always ask him for advice, and he would recommend a book. And then the next time he saw them, he would say, what did you think about the book? Oh, I haven't read the book. Right? It's that choice. It's that choice. And so you can choose. I love so much that you said that, Steve. Soni, how can everybody connect with you? So for anybody who wants to learn more about you and Steve and what you do with New Wings Consulting, or just kind of follow along before we get to the conference in September, what's the best way to do that?
So social media on our newwingsconsulting.com is our new website. Actually, we're really excited about that. And then on LinkedIn, Soni Graves on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time, and Facebook. Those are probably my two main ones. My kids are trying to get me more acclimated to Instagram.
We're going to get you there. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But I would love to hear from anybody that would, and just any type of questions or just insights. I would absolutely love that. So
fantastic.
Hey, Karen.
Yeah.
Karen, if I might suggest, I think Soni would agree. Certainly, we're going to have books there.
Yes.
That folks can get. But we've got, a couple of months before the end of. Yeah. And if they would go on Amazon and order the book, get it and read it, and then bring the book,
that'd be amazing.
So we can autograph it that way. But we're not there to sell the books. We're there.
Right.
Hopefully they've already got them. They've read it. They can come there, and then they can ask some questions of Soni and I that will give them more of a depth and understanding. So, I mean, Soni and I would love nothing more than for everybody to come into there and they're holding books of this, and they say, we got questions for you, and we want autographs.
I love that. That's a brilliant idea. And you said something that just made me think of something else that I was going to tell you. But no, I think that is a perfect and brilliant idea. I'm going to have my book there for you guys.
You better. And they better leave with your book, too.
Oh, indeed. Indeed.
Amazing.
What I want to say to you is, I meant to text you the other day. For the first time, I noticed this week, I can see that your book is getting out into the world, because I had a woman who I did not know previously who requested to join our Empowering Women in Real Estate community on Facebook. And one of the questions is, how did you hear about the group? And her response was, Steve Rigby's book. So there you go. This was such a delight. I love anytime we get to spend together, you guys. And
I do too.
I can't wait to see you in a couple months.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye, Kim. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast. Click subscribe to be notified every Wednesday when our latest episode is released, and be sure to check out our group on Facebook.